Well, you know my first guest is a famous political strategist, an author and commentator. His must-read new book called 50 Shades of Politics is filled with inside stories from his decades at the highest levels of power at the White House and all over the world. Now, full disclosure, Bill Clinton wasn't the only political figure from Hope, Arkansas that he worked with. The other was me. Would you please welcome my friend Dick Morris. Welcome. Good to have you on set. I moved up in the world from Bill Clinton to you.
Well, I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
What an interesting career.
You know, I loved your monologue about the Holocaust. The first, one of the stories in my book, 50 Shades, that's kind of autobiographic about my life, was that I was hired by Bibi Netanyahu to work in his campaign to help get him elected. And when he greeted me, I began to tell him how great I was. And he said, "No, I know all that. I just have one thing to tell you. It's 1938. And I just stood there, 1938. The last chance to stop the Holocaust.
Wow.
The beginning of the Holocaust. And he meant Iran was getting the bomb.
Yes.
And that this would be the Holocaust. And he explained that one nuclear missile in Tel Aviv would kill, 6 million Jews, a nice round figure.
At one time.
Yeah, but the same as died in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible, unbelievable.
Netanyahu has a wonderful way of bringing things down to kind of a stark reality.
1938. The other story that you reminded me of was in Poland. Eileen and I worked for the president of Poland, Kaczynski. I talk about it in the book. And one day we were in the old city in the campaign around Christmas. And we were standing there, and all of a sudden, all the lights went out, the entire city. And people took out white candles they had been holding. What's going on? And it turned out that this was the anniversary of the declaration of martial law in Poland.
Wow.
That was the 20th or 30th anniversary of when the lights went out in Poland, and the communists declared martial law to try to stop solidarity. And they lit the candles as a symbol of how the forces of freedom overcame the forces of literally darkness.
You know, one of the things about Poland that, and you mentioned this, the resilience of the Polish people is extraordinary. Their history is one that we don't hear a lot about here, but we ought to, because it's a heroic story. And the resistance really started in Poland, both against the Nazis as well as against the communists.
That's right.
The Soviet Union would never have fallen had it not been for the resistance and the resilience of the Poles.
We talk about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which was amazing. It was the first time the Jews fought the Nazis with their bare hands. But a year later, the Polish resistance rose up against the Nazis as the Russian army was approaching. And the Russians said to them, "Now rise up. We'll attack, and you'll be fighting inside, and together we'll exterminate the Nazis." And then Stalin had his army sit outside of Warsaw and not budge for 6 months while the Nazis killed all of the resistance fighters who had arisen on the Russian invitation. And the goal was to make Poland suitable for the communists by destroying all free people there.
It's a horrible story. But good stories in your book, 50 Shades of Politics. And one of the things that I find most fascinating, you talk about the fact that you have moved rather comfortably and seamlessly from blue to red to purple.
Well, blue to purple to red. When I was a kid, I was a staunch left-wing Democrat. And then when I
A lot of kids are.
They are.
They usually outgrow it, right?
Yeah. Well, they outgrow it when they get their first paycheck.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
They think that the $5,000 they think they earned is $2,386.14, and they wonder where the rest of it went. Then I became purple when I worked for Bill as president, but also for Trent Lott, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. It was the last time we had bipartisanship in this country. And then I continued my progression to red, which I am today.
But let's talk about the fact that there was a time, the audience likes that, But Dick, there was a time when Republicans and Democrats successfully worked together. It wasn't that they quit being Democrats or Republicans. They were who they were. They had convictions and had beliefs, and they had policies they wanted to enact. But they were also pragmatists. Bill Clinton was a pragmatic president. I will be the first to say that. With whatever flaws he has, he had that. And then Newt Gingrich and a lot of the Republicans, Trent Lott and others, they were pragmatists. They knew that politics is the art of what you can get done, not the art of what you would wish you could get done. Well, why don't we have that today?
I told the president, Clinton, that he was facing a very tough fight for re-election and would probably lose unless he could actually make real accomplishments for the American people. And at the same time, Trent and Newt had been through the government shutdown the previous Christmas.
Sure.
And everybody was blaming them and down on them and dumping on them. And I said, you guys are going to lose Congress unless you can make real achievements. And I said, you have to realize you're not Democrats or Republicans, you're incumbents.
Yeah.
And before you're in either party, you're in office. And you got to produce stuff. And then as a result of that, we passed welfare reform. We balanced the budget for 4 years. We raised the minimum wage, the COBRA program, take your health insurance with you, we passed. And it was kind of incredible. But there's a funny story I talk about in my book. You know, they have the gridiron dinner.
Yeah. Oh,
everybody makes fun.
Just had it a week or so ago. Yeah.
So Trent was the speaker, and the president was 3 seats away from him. And he called me and he said, how about we do the skit together? So we agreed. And Trent gets up and he's giving a speech. And he says, we need to raise taxes. We need to expand government. We need to raise the minimum wage. So I stood up in my seat and I got out my cell phone and I said, hello, Trent? And he was on the phone and he said, not now, Dick, I'm giving a speech. And I said, I know you are. I'm in the audience. You're giving the wrong speech. You're giving Clinton's speech, the speech I wrote for the president. Give him back his speech and give yours instead. So then he walked over to Clinton and put his speech in front.
You know, there was a camaraderie that existed, even though there was always conflict, but ultimately resolution. Here's my question. Why don't we have that now?
Well, I think the major reason is that the political establishment is so focused on winning the primaries, winning the nomination, keeping control of their vote, that the idea that they would serve the people by compromise is just an anathema to them. But I think that what's going on now is I think the Democratic Party is going crazy to the left. It's historically true, Mike. Whenever a conservative beats a liberal, the Liberal Party always moves to the left. You'd think they'd move to the center, learn their lesson, but they don't. So after Reagan beat Carter, the next 2 Democrats were Mondale and Dukakis.
Even further left.
Way over left. And in Britain, when Thatcher beat Callaghan, the next 2 Labour candidates were Kinnock and Foote, way over left. Then they got sanity and nominated Blair and Clinton and won. And that's what's happening now. After Trump defeated Hillary, the left has taken over the party and has moved it crazily to the left. Why? Well, I think one thing is that people see what a good job Trump's doing, and they leave the Democratic primary. They don't vote there. So only the crazies are voting in that.
Well, that's pretty blunt. But then if that's the case, you're predicting the Democrats will in fact elect somebody who is much further to the left than the core of what has been the Democratic Party, which it sounds like you're predicting that will be their demise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is happening now, before our eyes.
Yeah.
I think that anyone that they can nominate will be unelectable, and anyone who is electable will be unnominatable.
Huh.
And so is that right? Unnominatable.
I think you just invented a new word.
Yeah, right.
So you're the best prognosticator of politics I personally know.
I prognosticated your victory.
Yes, you did. Sitting on a hotel bed at the Camelot Hotel in 1993. I'll never forget it. And after about 10 minutes of vote totals, you turned to me and said, you're going to win. Yeah. And I said, Dick, we barely have 4% of the votes in.
Yeah, right.
And you said, It's okay, you're going to win. And you gave me the percentage. You told me exactly the percentage. And 3 hours later, when the votes had actually come in, you were exactly to the mark on what it turned out to be.
We should explain to the audience that during this campaign in 1993, I had worked for Clinton for years, and I'd become a Republican. And I worked for you. And Sarah sat at the kitchen table while I was talking to you, while I was going through poll numbers. So this kid has come by it naturally.
Well, she was like 8 years old when all this was going on. So, okay, so
here's what... I want to note that the transformation from Democrat to Republican was not my only one. Something I do not talk about in public much, but I can on this network. In part under your influence. I was baptized in 1997.
You grew up Jewish. So, I mean, it wasn't really just from Methodist. Okay, you grew up atheist, okay.
And then I stopped being your political consultant, and you became my religious consultant.
It worked out okay for both of us.
We both did well.
Who do you think ends up getting the nomination for the Democrats this
That's the answer to a trivia contest, you know.
Okay.
Who lost to Trump in the second election? I think at the moment it's...
I caught that. I'm not sure the audience really picked up on that. Go ahead.
I think at the moment it probably will be Sanders or Harris.
Really?
Harris has done something cool. California moved its primary up to be the fourth primary. So you have Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and then California. And nobody else will have the money to compete there right at the start. But she won't have to because she's from there and will get those votes. But she can't possibly win. She began her political career because Willie Brown, the Speaker of the Assembly, as corrupt as they come, the power in San Francisco was having an affair with her, admitted it, and put her in as DA, put her in as Attorney General. And I mean, she's gone no place, but I think she may get the nomination, or, God help us, Bernie Sanders.
Well, God will need to help us if that's the case, I'm thinking. Let me tell you, this book is fantastic, and I hope folks in our audience who want to read a book that is filled with some great, and I mean phenomenal stories of behind-the-scenes politics of the past 4 decades.
I got to tell you the best one. 1988. I was talking to a woman who worked for Bill in the governor's mansion. And she said Bill came over to her because Gary Hart was there running and said, he told me, I don't do this. I don't know these women. I've never met them. I don't recognize the names. This is all Republican propaganda. So she came home and she told her roommate, you know, I got the feeling he forgot that we'd slept together.
Well, that's one of many stories in the book. And there are lots of them, and it's an incredible book of insights, not just stories, but insights into the modern political world.
Just at Amazon. It's self-published.
Amazon, and you can get it there. I want to thank Dick Morris for joining me. The book, 50 Shades of Politics, is available on Amazon. And by the way, you want to get his latest columns. He has a delightful video commentary that comes out every single day that you can subscribe to.
It's called The Lunch Alert.
The Lunch Alert.
And I mail it out to 300,000 people, have lunch with him. And it's free. You just go to dickmorris.com, you sign up, and every day I'll bombard you with my opinions.
See, I was going to tell him all that, but now I don't have to.
Okay.
Dick, great to have you here. Thank you for coming. What a pleasure.